to visit our website, a21r.com, and of course, New California State, State of the Future. We got a packed house today. Simone Anderson has joined us, and Simone, welcome to Agenda 20. This is your home again, away from home, and I don't know.
Moved in, so I don't have anything set up, but I'm not in the river park today, which is really nice because it's been super cold.
Yeah. Now, well, it's nice to see that you're there and you're happy, and obviously, it's nice to be in your own place, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, I work down here 2 weeks a month, so it's nice not to have to be staying in a hotel. And
Oh yeah. So, a lot of things going on. I was just playing the James O'Keefe uh, piece that he just did on the Pentagon, and he worked the Pentagon official that we're talking about here is a consultant with Booz Allen Hamilton. Are you familiar with them?
no.
Okay. Anyway, it's very disconcerting that this is stuff that's currently being talked about, a coup d'état amongst the top chiefs of Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Okay, well, I do have some on that. Today I was going to talk a little bit about China. We're kind of close in the thing, but as
Hmm.
you know, Paul, and you and I have talked about, I believe that we have been at war for several years now, and that it's actually finally coming to the surface that we are basically at war with China and the deep state and the people who want to bring the Chinese system to everybody around the world. I did send you on your email 2 white papers, one called Broken Arrow and
Hmm.
another one that talks about the potential assassination attempt on Trump and the people at the inauguration. So there are 2 white papers that are combined. Also, it shows, I don't know if you can pull them up. I did send it on your
Yeah.
email, but there's a
Yeah.
super interesting map on that. Let's look at the land that China owns.
Yeah.
If you scroll down on that original, what is it, the inauguration? Yeah, hypothetical threat to U.S. national security. And what these guys do is they combine all the intelligence reports from human intelligence, computer intelligence. So if you go down here,
Can you hang on a second? Did you send it through Tiffany
I,
or through
I sent it to
you?
your Paul Preston email.
Okay. We've been having some email issues lately. I wonder why that is. I
Well, I'm sure
wonder why here we go. Okay. You got the Broken Arrow one? That's it?
the Broken Arrow, there's 2 because I wanted to show you 2 different things.
Okay.
So
Broken,
first of
two,
all,
two different. Which one do you want to show first?
I want to show the threat to the inauguration, Broken Arrow.
Okay. Okay, good. This is, we got that up here. It's coming right now.
Scroll down to about the 5th or 6th page. There's a map, and it says how China is buying up farmland across America.
Right. Okay. Hang on a second. Let me get the screen. Can you see it on the screen?
Let me see. I've got my screen up. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So,
all right. So I'm going to scroll down here now.
And this is a document anybody can look up if they want to. These white papers are what different security firms and people in the government make up different scenarios based on the information that they've collected and other government operations that they've been involved in the past. So you can look at there.
Is this what page did you want to go to?
Let me see. Come down a little further. Okay. Okay,
Here.
this is okay, we can talk about this one right here. Okay, this is the Broken Arrow one. Sorry, the wrong one. This isn't the one. But basically, about 3 months ago, there's been numerous intelligence that a nuclear weapon came over the southern border in October and November. Many people are aware that during the decommissioning of Ukraine and Kazakhstan and the former satellite republics, many of those nuclear weapons went missing. And there's always been a threat. Apparently, the government's aware of possibly who has it. So this report right here is about the potential threat of this nuclear weapon and what they are planning to do. Basically, China is collapsing. And China has international influence. And that's how they've infiltrated all other countries. Anybody who lives in California understands that our state has been infiltrated by China. We don't even bother to put the American flag when Xi Jinping comes to visit anymore. We just have the Chinese flag.
Right.
And if you look at all the farmland, I sent you another picture the other day. And if you see what China owns a lot of the land in the Central Valley.
Can I stop you for a second? Is this Washington, D.C. with a nuclear blast?
Yes. That's what they're saying in the white paper. And these are all just potential things. But what they do when they write white papers is they take all the different intelligence reports and they condense it down. And so I'd heard several months ago, actually through some other military people that I listened to, that a nuclear weapon had come over the southern border. And a lot of people with the drone situation believe, if you've listened to anyone who runs drone companies and has extensive background, the only reason, and remember how Biden and Kamala canceled their right there when those drones started showing up, they canceled their vacation, went back to the White House. So I think there was definitely something. And if you listen to any people who do the drones, they literally say the only thing you can see at night is gas leaks or radiation. So those drones are looking, the ones that are American. But what we've learned from intelligence reports is that the Chinese government has been bringing in different types of high-level military equipment and marking it as farm equipment because they're in so many of our farming areas. So let me. I kind of want to show you this one map, and you can show, because it's been reported that these drones that they're dumping stuff on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I sent you the other document. Maybe you can pull that one up. Sorry, maybe I put the heading on wrong. And then this is hypothetical threat to NatSec during inaugural proceedings.
So you see this now, the hypothetical threat. We kind of looked at this one because we had a drone specialist on.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you saw that one.
Okay.
And this
Did you see the map?
I'm trying to get there.
Okay. I didn't know if he showed it to you already. But basically, they show the farmland. Seeing the farmland in the United States, red. Look at, Texas. If people understand, it was George Bush Sr.'s cousin who brought the communist doctrine to China through Yale in China. And anybody understands that Yale was founded, the man who founded Yale was a slave owner. And Yale was founded to keep us in the slave system for the children of the slave owners. So that's why we see a lot of predominant people graduating, because they're taught the admiralty law system, which controls us through the birth certificate system, which is just the modern form of slavery. So here we go. You can see where these states are. There's a lot here in California. And it goes basically up through the Midwest and over through New Jersey, New York. So go down a little bit further and let's see where the spraying has been with the drones.
Is this it?
Yes. So see how right here, there's California where it's been spraying in the Central Valley. That's also, if you look at the map of the fire areas where they have the new high-speed rail. I sent you that the other day on your text. Did you ever see that before?
Oh, we've seen that before, yeah. Okay. And it goes into Paradise and up Highway 70 is what it is.
And it goes all the way up here to Arizona. So you can track where the fires are burning to that. And look right here, where all the property where the Chinese own, they've been spraying. And as many people reported, people are becoming sick. It has an acrid smell. They're cleaning out their air filters on their cars and their homes. It's full of black sediment. So I think that we are directly under attack right now. China is collapsing. They have huge problems. They've destroyed their country. 60% of the water, you can't even touch it right now because it's so contaminated. They used to be self-sufficient, producing a lot of their own coal, oil, and food. They now import almost everything. They have an aging population, and they have the largest aging population in the world. And this is one of the things that's also become apparent. I watch a lot of analysis and people who take graphs and charts and they attack problems from different angles. And basically China's lied about half their population. And one of the reasons is because they can't admit that their systems have caused the mass exodus, and the one-child policy is completely screwed up their birth
population balance, right?
China as it exists will not exist in 10 years, as far as I'm concerned, unless they achieve all these goals. And what China has always, China and Russia and Iran and our biggest enemies have been turned their economies from a business economy to a military industrial complex economy. And that's where all the Chinese money's going. That's where all the Russians' money's going. That's where all of the Iran money's going, because they understand that they are trying to bring in their system internationally. So we are under threat. I believe that we are in direct war with China, although repeatedly they are blaming other people.
Well, right now let's talk about the Los Angeles fires.
Okay.
And this is complete warfare. This is open warfare against us, and people aren't recognizing it.
That's exactly right. What a lot of people don't understand, and this has been reported quite a bit over the years, and anybody who's a voter in the Southern California area has seen the entrance. There's a large military base. What we have to understand is that our leaders and leaders all over the world have illegally taken loans from the Chinese. And you and I have discussed this in the past, but basically our governor and the state of Oregon, Washington, and Oregon were illegally taking loans, and they were pledging our land. And basically the Chinese government has the right to physically remove us. And there's actually Chinese internal documents that have been released that show they plan on destroying over 60% of America and moving us off the land. So what he pledged was the state properties and the federal properties, which is totally illegal, but they own about 100 million acres in California. So underneath that whole area is Will Rogers State Park. There's also a large underground under the Getty Museum, a large underground city for the elite when they plan the nuclear attacks. The elite of Hollywood and that'll go underground while we all suffer the consequences above ground. So I believe that there's the possibility that China already took over the port of Long Beach years ago, and that they've infiltrated our submarine base that's under the Will Rogers State Park, goes all the way to China Beach and Las Vegas. And I don't know if you remember the story a few years back where they found several thousand children in the China Beach underground domes. So we're at war. Can you imagine if they do have access to our underground waterways under the state of California, what they could do, especially if they have a nuclear weapon that recently came over the border?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could well imagine.
Yeah, we're at war, and people think you're being alarmist, but we have been at war for some time. And really the things like Israel and Ukraine are hotspots of these war zones and of the people who want to bring about the New World Order. So it's a very interesting time that we're in. China is desperate right now because they don't have a population that's going to support
themselves. Right.
Right. I mean,
we've always said that. It's a matter of time, right? We've said that since we started getting all the reports about the one-child policy. And again, the Chinese family would support only a male, not the female. So females, if they were born, they were live birth, aborted right there.
Well, any time in history that there's a more ratio of men to women, that usually equals war. If there's more women than men, that usually equals poverty. So that's why, like, the Eastern Bloc's never recovered because all the men have had to leave all the former Eastern Bloc countries. You have Poland in that, but you still go back to Yugoslavia or Belarus, or these different areas.
Yeah, the Balkans.
Right. I mean, you can drive for miles and not see anyone but old women working in their gardens because all the children have left to send money home. So China has a mass exodus, like places like Cyprus. I was in Cyprus like 20 years ago. The largest population in Cyprus is all of the cheating high-level communists that are in Cyprus for the banking mecca, and so they can be somewhere. So we are under direct threat right now, and it's very, very concerning that a lot of people don't really understand what's going on because it's been right in our face for a while. The thing that we need to worry about, and a lot of times when these authoritarian leaders and even our own government has done it, whenever we're in financial trouble, they crank up the authoritarian movements outside their country because they need to steal. I mean, war is about stealing and capturing resources. So whenever people don't have resources, they go to war and steal what other people have.
That's right. It's very fundamental. It's very fundamental.
And I think that the Xi Jinping, the fact that he declined the invitation, I think Trump was trolling him because I think that they're aware of some of these plans. And I don't know. I just think the next 6 months especially is going to be extremely difficult. If you look at this white paper, they're talking about the fires, and the intelligence is showing that there are foreign nationals on the ground setting fires. You've seen a couple citizen arrests out there, and foreign nationals.
That's not what's starting these fires. These fires are started by lasers and microwaves. This is the fire. What we're seeing here is just an abomination, and it's all China run. That's my understanding, is that all the fire system that they have in place is a Chinese system, and it's being promoted by Americans with special interests. And it's the Rand Corporation, or what's the other one who makes the lasers, that they're not involved. That it's nice that they built these lasers down there in Southern California, in those very areas that are being burned out, I might add. But go ahead.
Oh, do you watch the show And We Know? He literally had pictures of local people who'd videotaped the beams coming down right before the fire.
Right.
So
yeah, this is all. I've seen this before. We saw it up in Paradise. It's the same old, and everybody needs to be aware. I was just telling everybody before the end of the hour that in the fires that we see here just recently, I had one of my sources, wonderful lady, and she was in Altadena. And I was asking her, I said, how did you find out that there was a fire? Early morning hours. She says, well, the only way I found out, and she lived kind of catty corner to the fire department. She says, the only way I found out is that there was a sheriff racing up and down the street and using his microphone and his loudspeaker telling people to get out, there's a fire coming. Well, that was exactly when people called me from Paradise. That's how they found out about the fire. Same way. The similarities are identical, but the results are just enormously devastating, because these laser fires they're electric fires. That's why these houses are collapsing down on each other and inside each other, and they turn it to white ash. They get to about 6,000 degrees. Now, this is Washington, D.C. This is the area that we're talking about for the inauguration.
He basically put in all the points because he was a drone operator and did a lot of these kind of activities. So the guy who wrote this white paper was just putting in where he thought they could possibly be launching the drones from during the inauguration, and that Trump should. And I've heard this from other people who are extremely concerned about the inauguration, and they're saying that people should celebrate closer to home possibly and not be in DC on that day. So even people who are big supporters of Trump seem to be extremely concerned, especially those who have military contacts.
Yeah. We understand what's going on. And this map is very disconcerting. And again, that Central Valley area, of course, up by us, we all got this stuff. Got sick from it. You got people sick right now.
Paul, I haven't felt well for 2 days. If you read what it says, I've been throwing up. I've got a lot of muscle cramp. I've got foamy spittle, all the things that they say is caused, they sprayed up and down the Central Valley, I think, for about 2 weeks between Christmas and New Year's. And so they're talking about this being a bioweapon, and they're going to create, like they've done many times. But what's super scary, the fact that China's collapsing and that there's so many world economies, like I think countries like France have 10% of their net worth invested in China, of their country's value. So the Chinese lulled a lot of people in, people made a lot of money. And now they're trying to, Chinese is dumping subsidized products all over the world. They're ramping up their military. They're infiltrating all of our governments. That's what a lot of people don't understand. The Chinese, communism has the same structure as the Vatican system, where they use extortion, bribery, and blackmail and threats of
Shocking. That's what California has.
Well, and again, the fact that it was, China was a closed civilization. How did they get the Communist Manifesto? Right? So the same people that are the deep state and have worked to bring about the New World Order, like George Bush used to love to talk about, are the same people we're fighting in China now, because it's really who took over China after the opium wars and the country was bankrupt. It was the Bank of England, and they came in, HSBC, came in when the war ended and forced them to take their banking system, and then they became the investors for the Chinese government. So it's exactly the same group of people who have the same exact goal. And so we have to understand it's not the regular Chinese people. When we're talking in these different groups and we're talking about this group and that group, it's really only a small percentage. The Chinese people are the ones who've been completely enslaved, murdered, tortured. And of course, the high-level communists, what's going on in China right now is a massive backlash that they're covering up. They just had one of the largest riots since Tiananmen Square last week. There's just been all kinds of things going on where the Chinese people are just fed up. The Chinese government just reduced everybody's pay another 50% last week when they'd already reduced high-level wages 90%. And they're not paying the wages, even though they're reducing them dramatically. So we have a situation where a communist official's son and some of his buddies threw a young kid out the window at a technical school, like a boarding school for boys. And apparently this has caused riots. The son was a high-level communist. The school covered it up. All the cameras were broken. The banking system has been collapsing in the rural areas. They use the COVID zero tolerance to keep everybody trapped in their apartments, and people who were really difficult.
They're stack and pack buildings, I might add.
Exactly. And if you look at they've lied about how many people really died during COVID. I believe there were millions more. I watched this one guy that does satellite reconnaissance, and he was watching what was going on in China. They were bringing these large incinerators, where you incinerate people. And there was 9 or 10. They were running 24 hours a day at full capacity. He could see it from the sky. So there's a lot of people, and they've lied about their population. It's really about half what they say it is. And this has been pretty established by these kind of analysts who do the numbers, and they go everything from they were tracing how many babies were vaccinated that year and how many Chinese people said were born that. I mean, they go at it from every different direction. So basically the primary conclusion is they're lying about 50% of their population. And what countries, especially authoritarian countries, do is they get active outside their country. They buckle down, like what's happening. They're cracking down on the Chinese citizens. Foxconn is a big manufacturer of handsets, and they've been moving their operations to China, from China to India. All of a sudden, China's blocked all of their equipment moving and called all the employees home. And they're trying to block Foxconn. And if foreign companies that are trying to take their money out of Chinese banks are unable to, another Japanese company, that the Chinese really treat the Japanese like garbage. And the Japanese, one of the heads of a big company that was trying to leave was in prison for 110 days when they were trying to pull their manufacturing equipment out of China and move it to India. So
Simone, we're going to have to run for time right now. Can we get you to come back at 9?
Oh, today?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Because I have John Mills next.
Well, he's going to give you a great insight into a lot of things I've been saying. I hope I set it up on a
well, no, you teed it up. We're going to have to come back for the second hole. Is what's going to have to happen here. You know, it'd be the third because that's fourth. We're on the fourth hole because we had Joe Hoff. You heard about Joe Hoff? They're running those ballots in Orange County through the machines 3 times. 3 times. God. The shades. All it is just like Georgia. Just like Georgia in 2020. Anyway, Simone, tell us. Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Simone Anderson. You can get me at SimoneMAnderson@AOL.com, or I'm on Rumble at LostInTranslationShow. That's one word. And I'll see you back here at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. That's right. So everybody's, want to see this one. And then John Mills after that. We might put the two of you together if he's got a little bit of time. What do you think of that?
Oh yeah, interesting. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we got to run for time right now. Anyway, so Simone's going to be joining us back in a second. It'll seem like a second with John Mills when he's going to download on us for the same sort of information and intelligence. This is about the most fruitful intelligence gathering you guys are going to get today, or ever, in my opinion. Anyway, a lot of things to talk about. The New California State movement is moving. There's some big announcements coming up over the weekend about New California State, and I hope everybody understands that we are at war. We've been telling you this for years. We are at war. And Laura Logan came to our 10th Constitutional Convention and said, we are at war, and that explained the whole detail about this 5th dimensional war. But there's more to it than that now. It's gone kinetic. And this is what we've been dreading, but here it is. Anyway, thanks for listening to Agenda 21 Radio. Remember to visit our website, a21r.com, and of course, New California State, Stay the Future, and stay strong, America. We are exceptional Americans.
2, 1, 1, 0.
We're sending out an SOS to the last vestiges of freedom, democracy, and the American way of life. Paul Preston with Agenda 21.
This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm a new Californian because California has failed its 40 million people and it's irreparably broken legislatively, judiciously, and financially. The only remedy left is to exercise our rights given to us by Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. By splitting the state, New California will return the U.S. Constitution back to being the supreme law of the land for both states, just as our founding fathers intended. New California will restore our God-given freedoms and liberties by giving the power back to the people that the progressive have been stripping from us for decades by amending the California Constitution over 900 times. Elections will be controlled again by the people, for the people, with one-day voting, paper ballots, hand counting, voter ID, and no machines. The Constitution was written for a time like this. Now is time to reread it, not change it. I'm committed to New California, and failure is not an option. It's the only way to save my state and my home. I do this for the children, mine and yours.
The Defense Enabling and Assisting Framework, or DEF, is the state-of-the-art digital communications security technology for your phone and digital devices. It is so powerful and so stealthy that governments and their surrogates have gone to extremes to procure and protect it. Western intelligence sources say DEF could save Americans from this Orwellian nightmare of our Leviathan government-industrial complex because it uses quantum-based computing to hide their communications from their governments and others' prying eyes. Get the DEF system by going to newcaliforniastate.com and select the DEF button or call 8778-282753. That's newcaliforniastate.com or call 8778-282753. Protect your phone and digital devices with DEF.
New California State is going back to Washington, D.C. to meet with Congress to become the 51st state. Not since 1959 has the United States allowed into the Union a new state. New California was founded in 2017 and declared independence from California on January 15, 2018. Working for the last 6 years to build a new state that the United States can be proud of, New California will stand strong with the other 50 states in the Union. It takes financial resources to send delegate representatives to Washington, and we are asking for your financial help to send our delegates to make a strong case for the New California state. We are all tired of the tyrannical ways of communist California, and it is time to allow a strong constitutional state to reestablish the rule of law. California has failed its 40 million people, and it's irreparably broken legislatively, judiciously, and financially. The only remedy left is to exercise our rights given to us by Article 4, Sections 3 and 4 of the U.S. Constitution. By splitting the state, New California will return the U.S. Constitution back to being the supreme law of the land for both states. Just as our founding fathers intended, New California will restore our God-given liberties by giving the power back to the people that the progressive have been stripping from us for decades. Elections will be controlled again by the people, for the people with one-day voting, paper ballots, hand counting, voter ID, and no machines. The Constitution was written for a time like this. Now is the time to reread it, not change it. We are committed to New California, and failure is not an option. It's the only way to save our state and our homes. We do this for the children, mine and yours. Please donate to New California today at newcaliforniastate.com. newcaliforniastate.com. That's newcaliforniastate.com, so we can keep the light of liberty forever bright.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
I do not respect an oath breaker. Anybody who's holding a public office has taken the oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. That does not mean you put how you feel first, how you emotionally react to a tragedy first. Because you think it's better that I will be safer, you abrogate my constitutional rights. That's breaking your oath, and I have no respect for that. I am a mom, and there's only one thing that I'm afraid of, and that's the people in elected office taking away my rights. I'm not afraid of the crook that's going to come to my door, because if my dogs don't get him, I will. and it's my job to defend myself. It's not your job to protect me. It's not your job to defend me. It's your job to protect the Constitution and protect my rights to defend myself.
This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
2110.
Hello. In the traditional motion picture story, the villains are usually defeated. The ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch. The story isn't over. You and the audience are part of the conflict.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
93028.
I know some people want me to bypass Congress and change the laws on my own.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
The original Constitution, I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws.
And that would authorize to use the military to arrest people in the United States who, in the President's opinion, are enemies of the country.
You'll find that they've also asked for the right to imprison farmers who wouldn't keep books as prescribed by the federal government. The Secretary of Agriculture asked for the right to seize farms through condemnation and resell them to other individuals. And contained in that same program was a provision that would have allowed the federal government to remove 2 million farmers from the soil.
This government, Republicans and Democrats, were busy shredding the last vestiges of the Constitution. They're talking about inserting the Army into domestic law enforcement. The homeland is part of the battlefield, and people can be held without trial, whether an American citizen or not.
I have been often to, the mothership in New York City. But it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have this far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
Take off the tin-foil hat and put on the Kevlar. It's time for battle.
You're tuned to the program that is about to predict the future. A future in a whole new light. A radical change from what it's been to what is now. You're moments away from Agenda 21.
Vice President Harris will say repeatedly, what is the quote?
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
Is that word salad or Marxism? It's Marxism. That is, in fact, not at all word salad.
I can imagine what can be.
So you can see the possibility of a world that's unburdened from its own history.
By what has been.
Which is exactly what Mao Zedong did when he launched the campaign of Smash the Four Olds. They were going to make a new China that was going to be unburdened by what has
been.
This is what the Soviets, the Bolsheviks, did when they took over power in Russia, is that they were going to make the new Russia. People could become unburdened by what has been, so that they could see what could possibly be in the terms of a socialist utopia.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
Here's Paul Preston with Agenda 21.
Well, hello and welcome to Agenda 21 Radio. This is the radio show that is stopping totalitarianism, one exceptional American at a time. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, are you that exceptional American? Well, I suspect you are. That's why you're listening to this radio show right here, right now on Agenda 21 Radio. Remember to visit our website, a21r.com, and of course, New California State, State of the Future, and what a future you have in New California State. A lot of things are going on right now. We're talking just a minute ago to Simone Anderson. She's going to join us in the fourth hour. We're going to go 4 hours to get all the details. The the fire hose will not quit, because John Mills will be with us here shortly. Colonel John Mills is going to give us an update on Taiwan and all the things that are going on there. What does the war footing situation look like? We are at war, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're not convinced by what's been going on down in Southern California, or you're in Southern California, which we have a lot of listeners, a lot of people on the chat line talking about what's going on. And I get your phone calls all the time. I was deluged yesterday and the day before with phone calls about the fires. Today's Friday, so maybe it was definitely was Tuesday when the big hit was happening. The fires that are, the so-called quote fires down there are literally utilizing weapons of war against us. We are at war, and Simone Anderson was making that point quite superbly in the last hour. And I suspect that John Mills, he's always said the same thing, that we have been at war for a long time. He's in the Lower Logan camp, and as you may recall, some of you, we did our 10th Constitutional Convention down in Anaheim, which has become pretty much a Marxist holdout, actually, as a city. Yeah, you can kind of sense. I grew up in Orange County back in the day when orange groves were orange groves, but the county was not named for orange groves. That's a little bit misleading, and as sort of an insult to injury, the county was actually named for William of Orange, just like Orange County, New York. Yeah, the Orangemen. Yeah, what's that mean? Well, Protestants is what it means. And again, Protestantism is what the foundation of this country is all about, which really rankles a lot of people. But Orange County, California, was named before they even had orange groves. Orange County, the city of Orange. And it wasn't a county, incorporated county, until really the 50s. I think Orange County as a county was the last incorporated county in California. Wasn't that interesting? Isn't it? And we're right now in the middle of mapping and doing all this stuff for the New California State Movement, which ought to be really kind of a interesting set of circumstances as things develop. We are going to be making some big announcements for the new Orange County, New California, for New California this weekend. And please stand by for some very important news that's going to be developed, that has developed and will be happening. Now, I'm sorry, this is Thursday, isn't it? So, okay, how about that one? I'm just thinking it's Friday. It's not over yet. It's Thursday. So thank goodness we have one more day. So yes, Tuesday was a big news day for finding out information about all the different fires and everything in Southern California and how it all happened. We went through the Paradise Fire thing. We went through the Camp Fire. We went through the Carr Fire up in Shasta County. We went through Santa Rosa. They all have the same signature markings of laser using direct energy weapons. Raytheon was a big provider of those weapons to the world, and now the world has them. China has them. There's no question about it. They have that. And the Maui fire, classic example of, once again, one of the things that's a telltale sign is what we saw in Paradise. They tried to in my opinion, they tried to weather warfares with a little bit of weather after the fire, in which we had a deluge of massive rain. And of course, I said at the time on the radio, I said, they're just trying to wash away the evidence at this point. Well, the evidence that was there in the soil was a residue of thermite, a thermite residue it's very toxic. And of course, why would thermite be there? And the answer to that is because they chemically spray us with aluminum oxide. That's those chemtrails. And the chemtrails are the telltale signs that something's about to happen in terms of vegetation, because why aluminum oxide settles on the plants, gets in the plants, gets in you. They're nanoparticulates. You're breathing it right now. And so what happens is it gets hooked up to your blood, because why? Blood has iron in it. Think about that. So this aluminum oxide is coursing through your veins right now, and anything else that they might spray on us, which is what we talked about with Simone, that the Chinese have been spraying stuff with their drones in many different areas. She showed us the map, and of course, we're right dead center in it. That's why there's a lot of sickness going on in this area. We've seen a lot of that. And so as a result, a lot of people have been sick. Myself, we got a couple of our friends in New California in the hospital as a result of it. And that's something that we are definitely looking into. Okay, so just before we had Simone on, we had the article that was by O'Keefe Media Group. Oh my God. And it was a very, very telling article. And I'm going to go back to that article right now until John gets with us here. And don't know why we don't have John with us. Maybe we can get some information on John. Anyway, we're going to go back to this media group, the Oh My God media group, because it's telling of what the Joint Chiefs of Staff are talking about. And of course, we had another undercover thing going on with O'Keefe, and he talked to a real high level, or they trapped a real high level individual was with Hillary Clinton, and now he's with Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a defense contractor that does a lot of spy information. Scott Bennett, you may recall Scott Bennett, who just recently passed away, was a whistleblower against Booz Allen Hamilton, and he was warning us about all the things that were happening right now back in the day, as early as 2014. He was warning us about what was going on with Booz Allen Hamilton, the military-industrial complex, which is what Kennedy warned us all about. All that stuff was something that was really, really important. And so we are definitely going to be looking into all the things that are going on with that, because these guys are trying to undermine and destroy the president. And we're talking about a lot of the people that are involved with the Joint Chiefs, and it may be the whole gaggle of them at this point. They're looking into, and they've all been corrupted. This is what we've long suspected has been the case, that these guys have long been corrupted in what we've been looking at. And this is something that, like I said, it's been very, very disturbing to see this. And as a result, we're going to go back to it real quickly here, wherever you got it here going on. More things happening here. More and more things are happening. So here we go. Let me get this hooked up here for you real quick. Here we go. Okay, here's John. John, Colonel John Mills is with us now, so I'm going to put him up on the screen, and let's see if we got.
Wait a moment, Paul. I guess.
Okay, I'll pull that one down for you here. Get myself back up here. So the Joint Chiefs of Staff appear to be involved. At least this is what we're getting from.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Anyway, John, welcome to the show. And what I wanted to find out from you is we've been hearing some disturbing talk about what something might be happening at the inauguration, but also with Taiwan. Which one were you going to talk to about first?
Well, so yeah, what's going to happen at the inauguration? That's a great question. I'm going to be there. I'd like to know. I think a disturbing event was DJI taking the geofencing off of their drones. DJI is a Chinese company. It makes probably 70%. It's a dropping number, but 70% of the consumer grade drones. I know in the California fires, you had a crash where a drone, somebody, who knows why, was flying a drone in the fire area, and it hit the wing of one of the small number of very important firefighting aircraft. Sure. So DJI took the geofencing off. Now, some people were saying, well, it's a business decision. It takes away liability. That crash might have been the reason. DJI didn't want to get sued for, their drone bumping into, nobody was hurt, but it did take the airplane offline for critical hours. But there's more nefarious potentiality here of what the DJI geofencing. You got to look at DJI as an untrusted company, just like Huawei. People have probably heard about Huawei as
right back in the day.
Yeah, it took us almost 20 years to drive Huawei out of the market. They finally surrendered and gave up and left the American market in January. It took 20 years of aggressive pursuit when I was inside government. I mean, they sued us, they countersued us, they used all these maneuvers. Took 20 years to wear them down. They're just not a trusted company. Now, DJI is kind of in the same trajectory. I'm glad to see the Biden team go, but the Biden team was hard on DJI. They essentially kept the Trump policies and ramped it up even further. At first they said, hold on, Trump's being too hard on DJI, but when they started looking at the situation, they said, no, we're going to keep the Trump guidance, and actually we're going to ramp it up some more. So DJI is in a battle with the U.S. government, as it should be. You can't trust DJI. So they took the geofencing, which they said, well, we're doing that to accommodate and be in conformance with federal aviation guidelines. So this way, it'll stop the drone from flying over the White House, flying over the Capitol, flying over sensitive military bases. Well, like on the 13th, poof, they take the geofencing off.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. How about some heads up on this, DJI? So now some have said, well, they wanted to remove corporate liability, and some did cite that collision with the drone and the firefighting aircraft as, they don't want to be sued. Yeah, okay. I know how general counsel lawyers are. I get it. I think there's a lot more to the story. And remember Maduro, the thug who rules Venezuela, where Tren de Aragua is coming from, he was attacked by a bunch of drones at an outdoor speech. He was almost killed by outdoor drones. Who was flying them? I have no idea. But so is this Tren de Aragua or Maduro, Venezuela? But Venezuela is a puppet of China right now. Is something more sinister from the drones going to happen? So that's a grave concern. That geofencing. Now, you had the Tucker Carlson interview just the last few days where he said, I have it on good report that the drones being seen in America were Chinese drones being operated by satellite. Now, I've written about this multiple times. I know some people have said it's the U.S. government. The U.S. government's lying, and I think there may absolutely be a component of that. But I've always thought that the drones definitely, I think the most reasonable logic was they were Chinese drones, okay? And using not just satellites. I don't think they were that precise in the Tucker Carlson interview. I've said it's the 1,000 sails low Earth orbit constellation they've put up, which is competition to Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yeah.
And so you bet, because the Leo constellation allows these drones to communicate back with China, totally bypassing every possible way for the U.S. government to monitor, block, intercept, etc. So this is a dangerous situation. So other than that, everything's going great, Paul.
Well, these are acts of war.
Absolutely.
The bottom line. And again, I'm trying to emphasize to the public, because they don't understand we are at war. And I mean, when the New California State Movement, we've been doing this for a long time, telling people that there's a state of insurrection going on by the California state government against the Constitution since 2000. Yesterday we had our 7th constitutional Declaration of Independence anniversary. And we started saying it on the 23rd of January, 2018, that this is the state of war that we are in. We had Laura Logan come out in our 10th Constitutional Convention, explain this war that we're in to our but people just don't want to. They're in total denial about this war, unless you've been saturated like we have up here in Northern California with all the fires, and we've watched this orchestration with all these fires that we've had, and even in the floods, in the potential flood and the loss of the Oroville Dam. We get what's going on in warfare. The Southern California folks don't get it yet, not even the nation. But this is what you can look at the landscape down there in Pacific Palisades, and it's a war zone, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a mess. And I'm glad you speak in terms like this. People just have to understand what's going on. This is war. It's fentanyl. It's Tren de Arugua. That you got to look at that as a proxy of China, and the forest fires. You know, I've done some research on this. You know, some of the excuse me. I apologize to Japan. I meant Chinese satellites that are up there. You know, the combustion temperature from a satellite laser, you only have to get dried wood up to about 370 degrees, and then you're starting to, you know, you can get it smoldering, okay? And then you can let nature take its course from that point onward. So a lot of these lasers, you know, there's the laser that was NASA gave it approval to be shooting lasers into the skies over Maui with, you know, okay, what could possibly go wrong here?
Yeah, what's that about?
Yeah. So I think these forest fires, come on, during the Second World War, Japan did know that a vulnerability was our vast resources of wood, and they were sent over thousands of balloons,
right?
Incendiary devices. So I think this forest fire thing in California, and I mean, I think the U.S. government has been incompetent, overwhelmed, and sometimes aiding and abetting malign Chinese activities. I think the forest fire, absolutely, it's reasonable to consider a nexus between Chinese activities. That this has driven me nuts on forest fires in Northern California is, come on. Look at the way, whether it's ISIS, whether it's Tren de Arugua, whether it's China. Look, they understand the fire danger threat, especially.
Well, you know, we're just about burned out up here. I mean, there's not a lot of forest that you can burn any longer, and the high temperatures of the forest fires themselves, exceedingly, you know, 4,000 degrees because of this. The constant saturation of aluminum oxide mixing with iron in the soil. And as you know, that makes thermite. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the reasons why they clear the soil afterwards is the thermite residue that's in the soil. Hello. The toxic nature of this, when they started clearing off the lots in Paradise, California, the actual places where they wanted to dump these, the soil and everything, they were turned down in several counties because they said, no, we don't want to take the toxicity of the thermite. They finally found a place to dump it all. But
I did not know that one. Wow.
That's why in Maui they do the same thing. They clean it, they clear it because of the toxicity of the chemicals that are left behind from the fires. And again, aluminum oxide, you know, we were driving down to San Luis Obispo, and on the same weekend, we were driving, which is the weekend before the fires in Los Angeles. On Saturday morning, we're driving down, and we're on the middle of I-5, and we could look off in the distance, and we could see above the LA basin, they were just coating it with, in that particular city, it was just obvious, the big, huge open sky there, and it was just obvious the clouds were being sprayed right there. And when we got closer, you could see the aircraft laying it all down. And guess what? They burned them out on Monday and Tuesday.
Well, you know, NASA gave approval. I'd have to go back and check my notes and my articles on it, but I think it was the Daki-1 satellite. Okay, NASA says we're going to allow the Daki-1 to shoot certain laser types into the atmosphere over Hawaii and Alaska. Okay, fine. Where's the pre-launch inspection so we know what in the bloody world's on the Daki-1 satellite? No, there was none. And I just, on a basic measurement, they had easily 4,000 pounds of weight they could carry. 4,000 pounds is a lot for a satellite. And 4,000 pounds, you bet you could fit a laser with enough power and power to generate. Again, all you got to hit is, it was really the danger zone. Once you got above 360 degrees, you know, 360, you didn't need to get above 400. You could start the smoldering, and we can't allow the U.S. government to sign science agreements like this unless we go, hey, China, sure, we're going to come over and we're going to fully inspect the satellite and we're going to watch everything after the inspection to make sure nothing changes until until that thing is in the air.
You're just signing away. Say, go ahead and go at war with us, and we'll just ignore the war.
Yeah, this is ludicrous, and this is why the mega team needs to hammer. But But it was for scientific reasons. Great. We're going to have an inspection team. We're going to inspect. We're going to rip that satellite apart, and we're going to watch it like a hawk. Or we just don't give China an agreement for this. This is ridiculous. Would they allow us to shoot lasers into the sky over China without demanding reciprocity like this? Of course not. This is ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, that's because we basically have the enemies within.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah,
Too
absolutely.
many enemies within. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going to be happening at the inauguration. Now, the day before, on the 19th, Donald Trump is having a big rally. Why does Donald Trump have a rally on the day before the inauguration?
Okay, I'm always in the 10% who don't get the memo, Paul. So I'm very proud of that. Where's the rally?
The rally is going to be in Washington. I presume someplace out there in the mall, and that's going to be Donald Trump's rally.
Holy smokes! Okay,
yeah, on the 19th.
Okay, well, thanks for letting me know. I'm going to be I'm going to be speaking at a couple of events on Sunday afternoon. So thanks. I think we need to look at this, take this very seriously. We got outgoing FBI Director Wray going, China's at war with us, planting malware in our networks. Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. Okay.
Right. I mean, they're saying the obvious now, which we've all known about, and which he's been hiding before. He's been hiding it.
In all fairness, he has made statements back. Remember when Typhoon Volt was first announced was May of 23, and by fall of 23. General Hawk, the NSA Cyber Command commander, Jen Easterly at DHS CISA, and Ray were all going, this is preparation for war. So, but the problem is, nobody trusts Ray because he spent too much time spying on Americans, spying on parents who, went to school board meetings. J6ers, all of the above. So we have to discern what is a lie, what is truth. But the problem is he's
no credibility.
He's burned all credibility. So when something true comes out of his mouth, but I mean, if they had, and this is where I want to see Cash and Ratcliffe and Tulsi release the intelligence priority stack listing, during the 4 years of the Biden team. And okay, thank you, Ray, for telling truth on occasion. Okay, what was the intelligence priority stack, which is literally it's not only tells named programs that are literally it's a triage, but that's for cost accounting purposes. That's how they report to Congress, and they can easily move things up and down the stack because they just say, okay, every quarter we're going to reset the stack. Here it is, and okay, so. You say this is an act of war. What was above this in the priority stack? Oh, really? Going after J6ers was higher priority than this? Well, maybe that's why we've been caught with our pants down on this topic.
Well, it seems to me that the war was against Donald Trump all along.
Absolutely.
And for the last 4 years. But Donald Trump has been doing a great job allowing them to go to war so everybody can see them going to war with him. And now look what they've got. Yeah. And unfortunately, China is a big problem. And now what's going to happen in Taiwan, given the situation with China, and as we've been reporting, and we just had Simone Anderson on talking about the same thing, is that China is sort of imploding economically and in every other aspect as well. But it's still very influential worldwide.
They could implode and invade at the same time. These
Right,
are not
right.
mutually exclusive activities. And I'd like to get, I mean, I think there's Americans that are very confused. And I'm talking about our side of the ledger in the mega world. And I think there's a lot of confusion. I think two countries that China is actively in progress trying to topple is South Korea and Taiwan. Now South Korea, I've seen on social media several people asserting to be mega that are going, yeah, that dirty South Korea, where, you know, that President Yoon declared martial law. Okay, hello. Let's be a little more discerning and intelligent and understanding of what's going on. And if there's any doubt who is on whose side, let's say, everybody and Yoon's poll numbers are now past the other party, the Democrat Party of South Korea. Okay, so what flags do they wave at President Yoon's rally, those Koreans that are rallying to his side, who now are a greater percentage? They wave South Korean flags, they wave American flags. What do they wave on the other side, the smaller groups, but that have essentially seized media and the national legislature? Well, they wave violent transgender Antifa flags. Which side do we want to be on? Do we want to be on the side of those waving violent transgender Antifa flags, or on the side of those waving South Korean and American flags? Guys, I'm going to give you 2 seconds to answer this. Which side do we want to be on? And people are, people are going, oh yeah, but Yoon declared martial law. Yeah, he did it for 6 hours, and he did it so he could raid the corrupt National Election Commission that makes Fulton County, Georgia look pristine. Okay, and 0 people were arrested, tortured, abused, or disappeared during his martial law. Dozens have already been essentially arrested, and we don't even know where they're at, by corrupt elements. It's essentially a state of civil war in South Korea. So a mega crowd, and I've been on Steve Bannon's show, and Steve's been very clear on this. Which side do we want to be on? Do we want to be on the side of those waving the South Korean American flag, or those waving the violent transgender flag? If there's a nanosecond of doubt on this, people need to turn in their mega identification card, because this is part of PSYOP and confusion. People have been very confused on this topic. But let's talk Taiwan. And I was over there in September as a journalist, and it was an honor to be over there. I was a part of a small delegation, and we were able to meet with a lot of national defense officials, national security officials, and some of them I knew, and from my past work. And they said, John, we're going to be quarantined within 6 months. This was September. We're month 4. Now, people, history test from Professor Mills. Did we blockade Cuba in 1962, or did we quarantine Cuba? We quarantined Cuba. We quarantined Cuba, because there's legal differences on the meaning between quarantine, and the Chinese study and play back at us almost everything we do and have done. But they also said, John, we're going to be quarantined within 6 months by China, and the first thing they're going to do is cut undersea cables. Well, what happened last week? They cut undersea cables. Okay, and again, we got some America Firsters that are going, South Korea and Taiwan have nothing to do with us.
Jeez. Yeah.
We have to be a little more intelligent and discerning than that. Okay. Anybody who's saying that, put down your bowl of loudmouth soup and become a little more sophisticated on what it means to be mega. Okay. You got President Trump clearly showing leadership and America First values by, hey, guess what? We're going to reassert influence over the Panama Canal, Greenland, Canada. Okay, I think it's a great idea. And what about the Bahamas, which we've totally abandoned? And thank God Herschel Walker, one of the first things he did was name an ambassador out there. We've had a charge d'affaires, which is French for we don't care enough about the country to actually put an ambassador.
Ambassador, right.
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the Chinese have been running amok, and the 400,000 Bahamians are going, where in the bloody world are the Americans? Just like the
Well, they're all up and down Central and South America. They've been wondering about that, and of course, what is yielded, of course, is the policies of Mayorkas, which is using Central and South America as a conduit to pass millions of people northward, and the devastation has just been enormous there. I mean, these people don't like what's going on. That's one of the reasons why when we talk to people like Michael Yon and Ben Bergquam and those guys, they give us a pretty clear picture about what's going on down there, but nobody else has that same picture. It's difficult to find, one of the things that was a big reality check for me is when I traveled to Illinois about a year and a half ago and went through O'Hare Airport there. And geez, I walked by this in the hallways. I walked by this big, huge netted off area. I didn't know what it was until I stopped and said, wait, what's behind these? And I looked and there's beds and there's all kinds of people. Then I found out that's where they're parking all the illegal foreign nationals that they've been flooding into Chicago.
And homeless.
And homeless, right.
I will avoid Chicago at all costs. It is a disaster of an airport now because of the crazy woke policies. But yeah, we've America First does not mean 1930s isolationism. We're going to be smart. We're not going to start wars. We're going to end wars, but we're going to
and prevent them.
Yeah, and it's the blue team, the liberals, the globalists, where U.S. State Department has almost become isolationist because why even have a U.S. ambassador at a lot of these countries? Because the U.S. ambassador, we offer nothing except for lectures on transgenderism.
Right.
Panama several years ago put out a request for proposal to build the fourth bridge over the canal. Do you know how many American infrastructure companies responded to that RFP?
Right.
Zero. Okay, so we're climbing out of a 25-year hole in Panama where we've been missing in action. The current Ambassador Aponte, the current ambassador down there, who's just a beast, and has done nothing but lecture the Panamanians on alternative lifestyles. When Molino, the president, he's actually populist. He's actually pro-U.S., and we've done zero. And they've marginalized Molino under the Biden team because he's a populist. So I think there's nothing but great things in store for the future. But we gotta get out there and assert American interests. And so when a country seeking American participation puts out a bid, hey, we need a bridge built, we better have American companies hustle and respond.
Well, that's just it. That was one of some of the things that they were reporting. Ann Vanderstiel and Michael Yon. They just started building the Chinese just started building a dam or a bridge across the final river there that would lead into the Darien Gap and of course eliminate the natural gap and put it in a road. That's exactly what the Chinese have been trying to do, and we just allowed it and permitted it. Don't you think it's kind of odd that Jimmy Carter dies at this time?
I don't like to speak ill of those who have passed. Carter,
but you'll make an exception.
Was a saved evangelical believer. I know where he's at, but he was a horrible president, and he was the original virtue signaler before we knew what virtue signaling was.
That's exactly right. We couldn't figure that one out for a while there.
Yeah, and shame on. Now I've been looking at versions of the treaty. There's the handover treaty. There's the enduring treaty, and there is. I can't quite get the exact codified version of the enduring treaty, but there appears to be some language in there where we have, where it gives the U.S. a role in operations of the canal, security of the canal, neutrality of the canal, and we effectively, and there's actually a governance board that meets regularly, and we essentially have not been involved in that for 25 years, even though it says it in the enduring treaty. Well, what do you expect?
Yeah, well, you give them no direction. I mean, the Panamanian. How big is the the population of Panama, and how big is the government? You know, how much policing can they do?
Yeah.
They used to have how many Americans were stationed down there in Panama?
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends there that were stationed down in Panama, but there's no longer the soldiers down there like they typically had at the base.
Well, yeah, and I prefer the Panamanians are not clamoring for a return of a overt military presence, even though there is U.S. military down there.
I know there are.
I can't talk about that a whole lot, but they don't want overt U.S. military presence. But what they do want, they want a relationship. They want a partnership. They want business with Americans, and they can't find, despite pleading with Americans to do business with them, and I blame U.S. State Department for a lot of this. They put them on the corrupt list for a number of years, and there was corruption year, no question about it. But the problem is when we just put somebody on the corrupt list and say, well, when you're not corrupt anymore, we'll do business with you. Well, okay, what do you think is going to happen? China's going to move in and say, oh, you guys aren't going to do business with them corrupt? Well, we have no problem with that. We'll corrupt them all day long. I think it's a stupid behavior out of State Department, and I'm looking for a great change in that, and I think Marco Rubio is going to do great. It's hard dealing with State Department, and I think Marco's going to do a great mega job over there.
Well, one of the things that when we take a look at Panama and these other countries, Central and South America, now with this big influx of illegal foreign nationals, there is one business that's booming, especially out of Guatemala, and that's child sex trafficking. And we have done story after story because we are the recipient of all those children. And it's quite a sophisticated machine that's going on, led by Norma Torres, who is a member of she's a member of Congress, 35th District out of California. And she's El Salvadoran herself. She's not a citizen of the United States, not even a naturalized citizen. How does that work?
You're kidding me. She's a seated member of Congress, and she's not a U.S. citizen?
That's my understanding.
I don't think that can be true.
Well, we'll have to. Somebody needs to deeply investigate that because that's my understanding. But she's running the show. Yeah. She's running the show with the cartels, and they're doing all the sussing out of if a family unit comes into Mexico. They separate the children from the adults. You've heard all this story before. And they put them on buses and they bring them up to the Pomona Fairplex, in which they distribute the children. And they rank them either you're going to be sex trafficked, you're going to be used for organs, or you're going to go onto the foster care system.
Yeah, it's a sick racket. The U.S. is the #1 child trafficker in the world, and we got to address this. But this is where we have to address two things. One, you mentioned that U.S. rep from California. If we didn't have a weaponized Census Bureau, California would be down 4 seats anyway. So,
right.
So the corrupt, dirty Census Bureau gave California 4 more seats than they should have had. We should have had 4 more red safe seats. But the real crime in all this open border is all the enabling NGOs that make big money off of this. This is human trafficking, and how dare you? I'm from Virginia, and Senator Tim Kaine. There's a lot. You do a little bit of research, a lot about his background and how he tries to, he did a horrible job and got pounded, but he tried to beat down Pete Hegseth you want to bring up these issues there, Senator Kaine? Let's talk about some of your extracurricular activities and interest with young children. Yeah, let's talk about that. This is the NGOs are making big money off the child trafficking, and we need to hold some people seriously accountable.
we've been hammering away here in California at that, and we've been going down to the state capitol in the middle of the day and giving presentations and speeches and hammering on just turn the speakers around and just hammer the people inside, because we have a one-party system, a uniparty system here, of course, and we have 80 members of the assembly and we have 40 members of the Senate, and of the 80 we have 17 that are Republican, and in the Senate we have 9 out of 40. In the House of Representatives there's 52 seats, and of that we have 7 Republicans. All the executive branch that's been, quote, elected are Democrats, and have been that way since 1996. So we qualify as a one-party system, right there with Korea, right there with Cuba, right there with Venezuela, right there with former Soviet Union, China, and now we have California to join that little hoop there. So nothing gets done because we have a corrupt election system. That's really kind of what it comes down to. And that's why Norma Torres is ushered in. That's why there's no checks and balances on any of these things. That is the problem. And again, there's this complete system of elections that's run pretty much by the cartels in Mexico. We know that. They do selections. They groom candidates. We've watched this year in and year out. And again, nothing's going to change in well, it's going to change because New California is going to be here, but the election system is what has totally corrupted the state now, along with sanctuary state, that sort of thing. Open borders in down south. And Newsom goes down there to say the borders are closed. He says he has a National Guard. Newsom does not have a National Guard. He has no money for it. They can't field anybody down there in Southern California. They've got a lot of equipment down there, and I'm not too sure who's driving it, but this is as bad as it gets in right now in California, and this is what the nation's going to look like. This is the prototype if we allow this to go on.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are suffering in California because of the fires, but I hope there's a lot of people who've been enabling the dysfunction that hopefully their eyes have finally been opened as to what is going on. This is what you get. You get Venezuela all over again. This is what you get.
Well, and they used computerized voting for years, didn't they?
That's another place. Why in the world did this phenom of all these election machine companies start in Venezuela? Why? How did that happen? So we need to, why was an obscure Smartmatic? Why in the world in the 90s was a software company going, we're going to go to Venezuela and we're going to do election software?
Out of the blue, right.
Really? Everybody else is going to Silicon Valley and you're going to Venezuela.
And Smartmatic still has a big presence worldwide.
Oh yeah. Well, they got, the Biden team begrudgingly had to. I mean, this has collapsed a lot of their lawsuits, Smartmatic lawsuits, because the president of Smartmatic, U.S. citizen, the Philippines was complaining. Hey, you got him over here bribing officials, and so Garland was caught between a rock and a hard place, and indicted and arrested him. Because that was a clear violation of U.S. law. There's a different U.S. laws against bribing of foreign officials, and but when he made the announcement, he never said who it was. It took citizen activists to say, really, who was arrested? Oh, you mean the president of Smartmatic, the same guy? Oh, really? And that collapsed a number of Smartmatic cases, lawsuits.
I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal.
I mean, I knew about the because I was watching the Congress do their investigations and their hearings into Smartmatic. I was watching. I found that very fascinating. Here you have real congressmen on all sides of the aisle there saying the same thing about Smartmatic and the whole investigation. But I did not know that Merrick Garland did that. Well, when was that happening?
Oh, that was it was earlier. No, we're 25, so that was an early 24.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
The Philippines is complaining, and it was going to be a huge embarrassment to the Biden team. So he said, "Oh, you're right. Yeah, he did violate a U.S. law. We got to arrest him. Darn. Okay."
Shucks.
Yeah.
Shucks. We should never let that happen.
Yeah, I mean,
It's-
we owe a big thank you to the Filipinos for raising a stink over that.
Well, it's interesting. I was shown a bunch of pictures about Smartmatic. They have a big facility. I can't remember which country it's in. I want to say Guatemala, but I don't think that's one. It's in Central America. Big, huge facility that they have down there. So they have a big footprint going forward, a very big footprint. So anyway, we have to go for time right now. I wanted to thank you very much for being with us. It's been absolutely informative as all get out. And I understand we're going to have a kind of a big deal going on this weekend. The 19th, he's got his rally going on, and then the inauguration on the 20th. And, of course, all the galas and the balls and everything else like that happening. Your thoughts on that before we get going here?
That's the golden age is already in progress. President Trump has provided more leadership just since the election than 10 times. Well, since it was a negative number with Biden, but it's going to be great. I mean, Trump has already dominated the scene, and we just got to get Joe out of the way and Kamala, and so that happens on Monday. It's going to be exciting.
In these days, right now, I'm going to ask this question because it's a tentative. Technically, you got Biden as the president, and Trump's coming in. What damage can Biden do right now at this point in time?
Well, I would not be surprised with more pardons between now and Monday. I would not be surprised on that. They're trying to Trump-proof everything. They're going to definitely do that. Is there going to be a last-minute Kamala's president? She's taking over, and I think it's too late. The certification. The one thing that Kamala has done right in the last 50 years was she certified the vote on January 6th. So she did her job, so she can just go away.
Oh, no, they're going to run her again. Right. Well, we're going to run her right out of California again.
Yeah. Oh, I think in any delusions of that are rapidly going out the window, along with Gavin after the firebombing of the Los Angeles basin. I mean, this is just I am praying that the scales have fallen from their eyes, and that now even those who were the most entrenched now understand.
Well, one of the things we're hoping and praying for was in the early days of the Paradise Fire, they announced that there could be over 3,000 people died, and then they backed way off. And they said that only 87 people died. And even though they brought in the Army emergency field morgues to be stationed in different places around the city, right? They expected so many mass casualties, but the mass casualties didn't appear because, when you're burning things up at 4,000 degrees, the bodies burn pretty well. And so they counted the body count at 87, but the real number that we found, because we spent 28 days investigating it, and we ran into the coroners. They were running around in their white suits looking for bodies. And I finally asked the guys, is because we'd run into them and stuff and talk, and they were looking. And I finally asked him about 10 days into this, I said, how many people are on that little missing list there? And he shook his head and he says, over 3,000 people we're looking for. And I look at that mess down there and I say, I hope we have an accurate count, and I pray that it's not something like what happened in Paradise, where they didn't report these poor people, and we don't have a large loss of life. But I think the way that this has been handled, it's not going to indicate that. So we pray for them. We absolutely do. John, listen, tell us how we can get a hold of you and going forward.
Yeah, Colonel Rhett John 2, Colonel R.E.T. John 2 on X, Colonel R.E.T. John on Substack, Colonel Rhett John on Substack, also Getter and Truth, and got the books The nation will follow. War Against the Deep State. Go to Lindell, my store, for signed copies. Amazon for unsigned copies. And great, Paul. It's been great to be on your show again.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. Anytime you can come on, anytime. Enjoy this very, very much. So thank you very much, John Mills, Colonel John Mills, with us here on Agenda 21 Radio. We're going to come back in the next hour. More Simone Anderson. She's going to be joining us, and she's going to be waking up and out of her slumber, and she'll be joining us here. I'm sure she's going to be perky just like usual, and that fire hose is just going to come right at you with all that information. Anyway, thanks for listening to Agenda 21 Radio. Remember to visit our website, a21r.com, and of course, New California State. New California State, stay the future, and stay strong, America. We are exceptional Americans.
We're sending out an SOS to the last vestiges of freedom, democracy, and the American way of life. Paul Preston with Agenda 21.
This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
New California State is going back to Washington, D.C. to meet with Congress to become the 51st state. Not since 1959 has the United States allowed into the Union a new state. New California was founded in 2017 and declared independence from California on January 15, 2018. Working for the last 6 years to build a new state that the United States can be proud of, New California will stand strong with the other 50 states in the Union. It takes financial resources to send delegate representatives to Washington, and we are asking for your financial help to send our delegates to make a strong case for the New California state. We are all tired of the tyrannical ways of communist California, and it is time to allow a strong constitutional state to reestablish the rule of law. California has failed its 40 million people, and it's irreparably broken legislatively, judiciously, and financially. The only remedy left is to exercise our rights given to us by Article 4, Sections 3 and 4 of the U.S. Constitution. By splitting the state, New California will return the U.S. Constitution back to being the supreme law of the land for both states. Just as our founding fathers intended, New California will restore our God-given liberties by giving the power back to the people that the progressive have been stripping from us for decades. Elections will be controlled again by the people, for the people, with one-day voting, paper ballots, hand counting, voter ID, and no machines. The Constitution was written for a time like this. Now is the time to reread it, not change it. We are committed to New California, and failure is not an option. It's the only way to save our state and our homes. We do this for the children, mine and yours. Please donate to New California today at newcaliforniastate.com. newcaliforniastate.com. That's newcaliforniastate.com, so we can keep the light of liberty forever bright.
You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won.
I do not respect an oath breaker. Anybody who's holding a public office has taken the oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. That does not mean you put how you feel first, how you emotionally react to a tragedy first. Because you think it's better that I will be safer, you abrogate my constitutional rights. That's breaking your oath, and I have no respect for that. I am a mom, and there's only one thing that I'm afraid of, and that's the people in elected office taking away my rights. I'm not afraid of the crook that's going to come to my door, because if my dogs don't get him, I will, and it's my job to defend myself. It's not your job to protect me. It's not your job to defend me. It's your job to protect the Constitution and protect my rights to defend myself.
This is AENN, American Exceptionalism News Network.
2110.
Everybody is to leave here immediately. This cafe is closed until further notice. Clear the room at once.
How can you close me up on what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
Round up the usual suspects.
2110.
You're tuned to the program that is about to predict the future. A future in a whole new light. A radical change from what it's been to what is now. You're moments away from Agenda 21.
Vice President Harris will say repeatedly, what is the quote?
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
Is that word salad or Marxism? It's Marxism. That is, in fact, not at all word salad.
I can imagine what can be.
So you can see the possibility of a world that's unburdened from its own history.
By what has been.
Which is exactly what Mao Zedong did when he launched the campaign of Smash the Four Olds. They were going to make a new China that was going to be unburdened by what has
been.
This is what the Soviets, the Bolsheviks, did when they took over power in Russia, is that they were going to make the new Russia. People could become unburdened by what has been, so that they could see what could possibly be in the terms of a socialist utopia.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been.
Here's Paul Preston with Agenda 21.
Well,